Hello, hello, hello. This is Truth Be Told. We haven't done this in a very long time,
It's been a while.
but I got a video from my brother. He basically wanted my opinion, and I've never done this before, where I've basically reacted to a video on YouTube
Are we doing a reaction video?
or doing a reaction video.
That's okay. Let's
Okay.
do it.
So basically to me, I'm just like, you know what? I listened to this guy. He seems like a really nice guy. And so this is not shade or any kind of disrespect towards anybody, but I feel like the full story needs to be told. Does that make
Facts.
sense? There's
Yes, sir.
always two sides to every story, and we're just trying to basically kind of I want to go off of what he's saying and then just kind of enhance it and kind of show what the other viewpoint is, right? Because I'm not sure what his intentions are, and I'm sure it's not malice or anything, but
Right.
there's always a full story. And when I was listening to it, I mean, I literally was going through and I was like, well, no, what about this? Or what about that? What about that? And I just kept coming up with what about this? You're not
Right.
telling this part of the story. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Right.
and I'm not here to justify anybody's actions. I'm not here to, excuse, shadiness or excuse greed. That's not it at all.
Right.
But I feel like the full story needs to be told.
Yes, sir. Let's
And I
do
wanted
it.
to bring you on because as somebody who has owned an office, has had associates, I feel like you'd be a great add to this because this gentleman seems like he's an associate or was an
Yes.
associate, so I figured you could tell from an owner's point of view what was really going on.
100%. That's exactly what I was thinking when you sent it to me. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's not the whole story.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I figured, you know what, let's just go ahead and listen to this gentleman and then we can talk. We can kind
Cool.
of go from there. Can we do that?
Sounds good.
All right, cool. Let's go ahead and see what's going on. Let me share this.
Okay.
And you know what? Honestly, let's just see what he has to say. I think it'll be fun.
Oh, Are you wondering why dentistry is one of the most common professions linked to high suicide rates? Like you, I thought dentistry was a career that looked really good on paper. Six-figure job, working a couple days a week, you're helping people, and you get to do whatever you want, right? Wrong. Dentistry is a profession where the expectations nowadays do not meet the reality. Sure, there are dentists out there who are doing everything that I described before and they love their life. But in 2023, these types of dentists are the minority. The majority of dentists today actually hate their jobs and they are struggling. Hate might be a strong word, but a lot of them have a negative association with the career that they chose. This is alarming. I found here in the article from the Journal of Affective Disorders that the risk of suicide is increased among health professionals, and dentists have the highest suicide rate at 7.18% for men and women combined. That means for every 100 dentists, 7 of them will take their own life. Male dentists had a higher suicide rate at 8%. Female dentists had the fourth highest percentage at 5.82%. All of these suicide rates are much higher than the national average. I will say, I did not get suicidal thoughts as a dentist.
All right, I'm gonna pause there.
Please do. Please do.
I'm gonna pause there because again, I
Yes.
feel like the full story was not told. One, I don't even know what year this article that he's citing is from.
Right.
Was it 2011? Was it 2000 and one? I mean, was it 2000? You know,
Well, I'll be honest with you. When I did some preliminary research into that, no suicide rate is 8% of
right,
any group. What I found, like in the United States, the suicide rates tend to be reported in per 100,000. And the numbers are between all the states usually range from 20 to 30 people per 100,000. That's not even 1%,
right.
right? So I
See,
don't know if he saw like 0.07 and assumed that was 7% as opposed to maybe 0.07%, but a little misleading there, but we can chalk that up to just accidental misinterpretation, maybe.
there you go. You're a nice guy. I mean,
Okay.
okay, so that's a big accident, right? 7%
Right.
and 0.0, 7. That's a big difference.
Right.
Another thing that I don't know if you really talked about is the life of a dentist, right? I mean, it's a very lonely. I mean, most dentists are, sole proprietors. They basically work by themselves, correct? And so you have to consider a lot of factors that go into that. When you work by yourself, you are responsible for that office and everybody that you hire.
Mhm.
So if you go on vacation, let's just say you go on vacation, that means that most people are not getting paid in that office. And that's
Right.
a lot of burden to put on yourself. If you had 2009, housing crisis, patients weren't coming in, people were
Right.
losing their jobs. That's something that you had to deal with on your own.
Right.
When COVID came and we had no clue what was going on, that's something you had to do on your own.
Right.
2001. I remember a lot of people always talk about, oh, dentistry has the highest suicide rate. And most of the records that I remember was from the 1970s when the recession happened and everybody was struggling. And again, this is your profession. You're basically feeding multiple mouths and multiple families depend on you.
It's a high stress position.
It's a high stress position. And so I wish you kind of would have said, okay, well, this is the reason, or at least these are the reasons that I noted. Not just, oh, we're very suicidal, because there's so many factors. And depending on when you get this information will determine how high or low, suicide rates are. And I'm not justifying anybody's mental health, but I honestly think there's more to the story than just putting a number up just for, for clickbait.
Right. And that number, I mean, to be honest, if it was like 8 out of 100 dentists, don't you think me and you would be hearing about people we know committing suicide all the time?
Yes.
And so like I said, I'm gonna be nice because we're just starting the video. So let's just say he saw a fraction or a decimal number and misinterpreted it. Because literally the percentage I'm getting, if you're talking 22 per 100,000, that's 0.00022. So that would be what, like 0.002% or 0.02%. So yeah, so we'll chalk it to a little misunderstanding.
There you go. Yeah, let's keep going and see what other misunderstandings we find in this.
However, I did go to a dark place mentally early in my career, and it terrified me. Most people talk about this in theory. Actually, a lot of people don't talk about this at all, but I wanted to be one of the people who got a little bit more vulnerable about their story. I want to dive into each of the variables that play into why a lot of dentists consider taking their life. I want to use my stories as a reference point so that way you can know what truly does happen to a dentist and be fully aware that there are other dentists out there who have worse experiences than I do, and there are also some that have better ones. This isn't meant to be judgment. It's just meant to share and give you perspective. I also want to share with you at the end of this video what my prediction as to what dentistry is going to look like in the future. I promise you, no one has ever predicted this before, and I'm probably the only person that's ever said it out loud. Would you enjoy going to work every day if you hated the way things were done? This is very common in dentistry. So something that happens in dentistry, and one thing that happened to me was I'm an associate and I work for a practice owner. Now, I go to work every day and I try to work as hard as I can. I try to also recommend the best level of care to my patients. And what gets really frustrating sometimes is I will recommend expensive treatment to patients because it can truly improve their life. But then when I go to see that they accepted the treatment and scheduled, they ended up on the owner's schedule instead of mine. This left me really confused because they were a brand new patient and they had never met the owner. I was the only dentist that they met, and we had a really good rapport, and they were really excited to do treatment with me. So my question was, why aren't they on my schedule? So I asked the front desk why this patient was not on my schedule and why it was on the owner's. And they told me that they were instructed by the owner to make sure that the owner's schedule was full and prioritize more expensive treatment to be with the owner instead of with me. So I didn't really know what to do. I was afraid to confront the owner, but after a couple of days, I got the courage to sit down and talk with him, and I asked him about it, and he completely denied that he ever gave this instruction. He said to my face that he believes that the associate should be busy because in that situation, everybody wins. And I agreed with him, but that patient still stayed on his schedule and not mine. And it wasn't until after I left this job for a variety of other reasons was that the manager of the practice actually reached out to me and told me that they were proud of me for leaving the practice because they don't agree with how the owner's running the practice, and that he was in fact poaching patients from the associates. I was one of 3 associates in this practice, and he was doing this to everybody else. And it turns out this is very common in dentistry. Another example of a
I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop there. So okay. He said a lot. Let's look at the whole, you see a patient for the first time, you're the first person that they see, and then they end up on the owner's schedule, poaching. He called it poaching. What would be a reason for something like that?
Well, there's several models that you see. You'll get the business owner that hires an associate dentist to work the office, and the business owner's kind of ghost. You never see him or her, right? And so as the associate, you kind of do everything. Downside is you don't have any guidance, you don't have any collaboration, no one to help you grow, especially if you're a new associate. I had plenty of associateships where I was very open with them. I said, listen, I've built my practice to a certain point where I can bring someone in to kind of catch the overflow. but I've earned the right, because I've been grinding all these years, to be able to pick and choose to do the stuff that I love to do, which sometimes happens to be the more expensive stuff, right? So the implants, the root canals, the aesthetic crown and bridge work and stuff like that. That's a lot of times part of the agreement. Now, if that's not expressed, if someone lies to you and says, "Hey, you can every patient you see, you can keep them,"
Right.
100%, I can see where you feel jilted. But the fact is, if I'm the business owner and I'm hiring you and I've built up this practice, a lot of times we've built it not so we can continue to do, and excuse the language, grunt work.
Okay.
But you do stick your associates with the MOD amalgams and composites while you do the funner stuff, because you've earned that right to do so. And hopefully, as they're growing and they're getting better and faster, and whether they partner in or they branch out and open their own office, they'll have the ability to kind of build their practice so they do more of what they like to do and not as much of the grunt work. So
Right.
I can see both sides, but I think it depends what the conversation was when they first, decided to have the working relationship.
Right. And if the owner actually told him that he didn't do that and it was a lie from the front, that already just set the whole like dynamic up wrong, right? Because now
Right.
you're either lying or he's lying. Either this gentleman's lying or the owner is lying, right? Either way, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't feel right if you feel like you worked for something and somebody took it away from you. So I get that point of view, right? But
Right.
another thing that I don't think he explained well is, as an associate, most associates now don't even last a year. Right. Research shows that most associates don't even last a year. So now imagine this. I'm the owner of a practice. You do a big case, right? Multiple crowns and so forth, right? Have you ever heard of geographic success?
Absolutely.
Yeah, geographic success
Absolutely.
is amazing because you are 100% successful with all of the work you do, because you don't see them after the year or two, whatever. You leave, that work in your mind was still successful. The problem is the owner still there. So the patient will come in and say, "Hey, this crown chipped, or this happened, or this happened." And guess what's happening? That owner is also doing the work for what? Free. Because you got paid already. You left the practice because you want to go on to bigger and better things, which you shouldn't.
Right.
But you have to understand that the owner is still there, and they are most of the time replacing, fixing, or basically putting fires out. Right. And that could be that big case that you were excited to do, and you did, right? And as an associate, depending on how many years you have and how much you've done, full mouth rehabs or cases that cost a lot, is how he put it. They're not easy. They cost a lot for a reason, right? They take multiple appointments, to take multiple laboratory workups, like they take a lot. And so for you to say, "Oh, I got this patient to accept this expensive treatment," and then you don't kind of tell them what kind of treatment it was, and then maybe the owner was at right to say, "Hey, I'm going to take this case because it's a lot." Right? Maybe you're not ready. You're a brand new grad. And I've mentioned this. Everybody knows, if you go back to my other episodes, I say that new grads, you barely know anything. You know enough not to hurt or kill anybody. And
well, that's not the word you use.
I'm trying to be nice nowadays. Listen, my kids are telling me I need to be nicer. So I'm trying to be nice these days. But yeah, what I mean? So in the end, it comes down to, let's be, intellectually honest here and say, "Hey, what was the procedure you did? And does the owner feel like you are competent or ready enough to do that procedure?" And so if you poached it, you need to have a conversation from the beginning. Like you said, "Hey, how is this going to look if I have a big case and I work up a case and I sold a case? Do I get to keep that case?" And if they say no, okay, why not? Do you want to be in that environment? The second thing that really caught my ear was when the office manager called him to say, "Oh, congratulations, I'm so glad you left." One, that's a two-faced office manager, because that office manager could be telling the owner, "Oh, I'm so glad he left. He was very poisonous to this environment, da da da." You should be careful if somebody calls you behind their owner's back just to talk bad about that owner. One, that person should not even be at that office. If you're that much against the culture of that office, why are you working there? Because you're a part of that culture. You are also part of the problem. Then, if you're the office manager, you're managing the office, and you don't like the dynamics or the culture of the office, that means you've created that same culture. So you're as wrong as the owner is. And for you to go behind that owner's back and talk bad about them, Mike, I couldn't do it. If I found out, I'd fire that office manager. I mean, faster than you ever think. And I hope this guy doesn't believe that this office manager is out for his best interest just because he called you to say, oh, you know what, I'm so glad you left. Because more than likely, this office manager is talking bad behind your back.
Exactly. You know, and when your boss, everyone hates you at some point in time.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're delivering bad news. Oh, you can't get a raise. You can't have this time off and so forth. And that's just part of what comes with it. You're nobody's friend once you're the boss. But to believe, like you said, that she's only talking about the one boss because he's the only person that's so horrible. And I guarantee you she's talking about everybody in the office, about the assistants, the doctors, the hygienists, the patients. You know, everybody can get it with this person.
That's right.
Yeah.
Toxic work environment was a little bit different. I was working at a practice and I really wanted to level up my skills as a clinician. So I actually went to the owner and I told him, I said, hey, I'm going to invest in these courses. Is it cool if I take them and then implement the procedures? And then at the time, the owner said, yeah, sure, go for it. So I did, took out my own money, paid for these courses, learned these treatments, came back to try to do the procedures. And then when I had a couple of patients lined up to treat, the owner actually told me that I wasn't allowed to do these procedures and that I should focus on basic procedures. I was shocked. I ended up leaving this practice and moving across the country to go somewhere where the practice supported me. So this much turnover and this much trust breaking can lead to self-doubt and questioning if the profession is even right for me. Like
Oh, that's loaded.
Yeah, that's shady. I'll be honest with you.
That
I
is-
actually agree with him on this one. If the owner told you you can go ahead and go do whatever you want to do and go and, you know, level up, I think is how he used it. I mean, he has a lot of flashy stuff that we might need to start doing, man. You know, we might need to
A
start
lot of
having
graphics.
yeah,
and
graphics and
pop-ups.
stuff. We got to step up our game.
Right.
But if he, you know, said, hey, I'm going to go and learn all this stuff, which is not cheap. And then the owner basically told him that he couldn't do it. To me, that's shady and unacceptable. Unacceptable. You can't sit there and tell somebody you can do something. And then when they finally worked hard enough to get all the patients that they need and ready to go, and then you say, nah, don't do that now. Like that's a, you know, that's a disrespectful move. I'll be honest.
I kind of go both ways because I feel like part of the story is not being told, right? And I'll give you an example. I had an associate of mine who was learning to do myofunctional therapy, right? It's very expensive treatment, long-term treatment.
Break that down for us. Break that down for us. Like, tell us exactly what that is.
So it's essentially using functional appliances to do things like expand the palate on adults, which is, for all my dental colleagues listening to this, I'll let you kind of swallow that, right? So to open up the airway, to essentially be able to avoid having to do extractions to create spacing for lining teeth, right? But this is very expensive treatment. You know, associate hasn't done it before. We're talking treatment plans of like $15,000 that might take 2 or 3 years to do, that targets kids, right? So it's stuff with a high liability and long-term commitment, which if you're an associate, what a lot of people don't understand is that what any associate does, what any staffer does, let alone, but definitely an associate, if it's done at my office, that's my liability. If you do something wrong, if you have a midlife crisis and decide you want to follow your girlfriend to a different state and you up and leave, that patient is still my responsibility. And if I can't finish that treatment, then I have to be liable to find either a specialist that'll take them on. And you best bet there's going to be some type of financial repercussions on my end, right? So that's part one. And so I think it depends on, he never clearly says what this leveling up, what this skill set he acquired was.
Right. He hasn't said any kind of, like, he hasn't gone in detail with anything that he's done yet, right?
He hasn't.
And
but
that's
he
fine.
Did, yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna say that if the owner said, hey, go do it,
right,
you can't do that. You can't tell somebody to go do something and change your mind last minute. Like, I agree with what you're saying, but if you tell somebody they can do something and then you change your mind after they've done it and have the patients ready to go, that's a disrespectful move. I don't care. I can't. I'm on his side. I'm on his side for this one.
You know, I was, until he said that the doctor told him he needs to focus on the basics. And I feel like that resonated with me because I've had associates that, they go take like a CE on endo, right, for root canals, or a CE on implants. But you see them day to day and they're struggling with basic dentistry. And in your head, you're like, maybe you should focus on the basics a little while longer, build up your skill sets, your body mechanics, your kind of your prowess around, whether it's surgery or endo, and then tackle the more difficult ones. And the fact that he brought that up, because I've had to say that to so many associates who have aspirations, which is great. We want people to strive to be better. But when you truly see them day to day struggle with the fundamentals of dentistry, that's a line that's come out of my mouth a couple times when someone I felt was more ambitious than what their skill set justified. And I said, hey, maybe you should just focus on the basics for a little while longer. So that gave me pause to automatically jump on his side. But you're right. If the owner did give him the green light and then blocked him, that is kind of shady.
Yeah. Okay. But so basically, I think what you're saying is maybe he needed to focus on the skill levels that, he's not there yet. The owner has seen that he's just not there yet.
Right.
And that's hard to hear as an associate, that, hey, maybe you need to do better with the basics in order to get to this higher level situation. So again, we don't know what he leveled up with. It could have been ortho, which has nothing to do with restorations. Then maybe he was great at ortho. We don't know. He didn't tell us any details. He just said he leveled up and showed really good graphics, which I really appreciate. I appreciate the graphics.
He tells you to believe in yourself in the background. I think
that's see, we need that. I need that sign. I need that sign, and I need the graphics. So my man, you did well with the graphics. Just tell us exactly what you leveled up with, and maybe we could be on your side. We don't know, but right now we're torn because I say yes. What you said made me mad because I'm like, if someone can't tell you that you can do something and then go back on it, right? But Dr. Horton says, well, maybe your level was not there for the basics. And you can't run a marathon before you know how to walk.
Right.
So maybe you need to walk a little bit more before we run a marathon. You know what I mean? Because you'll end up hurting yourself or others.
Right.
Let's keep going.
Okay.
Sacrificed the early half of my 20s to learn how to be a dentist. And I went into $500,000 of student debt just for this. If you have dental insurance and you think it should pay for all the work that you need done, you're wrong. You see, dental insurance is just a discount coupon program that has blackout dates. It does not work the same. Health insurance. People pay $20 a month and they get $2,000 in coverage for the year on select procedures, and people think it's some unlimited plan. Guys, insurance rates hasn't changed in 20 years. What I mean by insurance rates is how much insurance pay dentists for the work that they do. You know what has changed in 20 years? Literally everything. The cost to do business, the cost of materials, the cost of school to become a dentist, and the cost to live. So I want to run numbers by you guys real quick. So 1,800.
Can I just say that I completely agree with him 100%?
Amen to that. He's preaching. Okay. I got nothing to say here.
We agree. This is beautiful. Yo, keep it going. Great illustrations again. I love the hand movements and the pointing and excellent job, buddy.
Yes.
Keep it going, please. This is what we want to hear more of. Details and I still like the illustrations and stuff.
Today is the equivalent of what $1,000 was 20 years ago, right? So if $2,000 in dental coverage was established 20 years ago, today that should be $3,692. But it's not like that. It's still just $2,000. This is how dental insurance has completely wrecked the field of dentistry by limiting the income potential for a lot of dentists who accept insurance. Let's go one step further. You know what else doesn't make sense? Two patients walk into the practice. One has insurance, the other one doesn't. Both patients need a crown. The same materials are used for both crowns. The same dentist is doing the work for both crowns. The same crowns take the same amount of time to do. The experience for the patient is exactly the same, except the dentist gets paid two different prices to do the same work required. If a patient doesn't have insurance, the dentist will get around $1,500. If the patient does have insurance, the dentist will get on average $700 to $800. How does this make sense? So when you're grinding as a dentist and you're doing...
All right. Again, I'm gonna have to pause. I feel like he didn't understand the whole signing up for insurance. You chose those.
Chose it.
You chose it. It wasn't like somebody said, "Hey, I have a gun to your head, and you're going to pick." You choose as a dentist to accept insurance or not. There are some insurances that are horrible, and I refuse to take them.
Right.
Because I know that I cannot say for this patient, because they're paying me less, I'm going to do less for them. That's unethical, and I could get my license revoked for just doing that. So every patient has to be treated equal, whether or not you pay me full price, or because you don't have insurance, or you pay me what your insurance, what myself and your insurance agreed to.
Right.
So he has to understand that. I mean, I wish he would have said that. It's an agreement between you and the insurance. The insurance doesn't just force it down your throat in a way, right? Like, you may not like it, but this is what you signed up for. Like, you literally signed saying you will take this.
Yeah, and it's a trade-off, right? Because essentially what the insurance is doing is they're using the power of numbers.
Yeah.
So they're saying, hey, we have these many members in your area. You'll be on a PPO list. So when they get their benefits package, you'll be at the top of that list. And we will predict, let's say, X amount of new patients per year. And in return, because we're bringing you so much volume, you do it at a slightly lesser price. Now, do insurance companies abuse that power and continue to decrease reimbursements or stagnate the reimbursements? Absolutely. So I'm not defending the insurance company, but he did mislead a little bit without or he omitted a lot. Basically, like you said, you're choosing to sign up, and the trade-off is you're getting a higher volume of patients for that slightly lower price, which, I mean, that happens in a lot of industries.
Right. And I included medicine, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, if you are a fee for service, meaning that you don't accept any insurance, you'll get paid more, but you'll probably see less patients because not everybody can afford a $1,500 crown or can afford whatever procedure you're doing at a high rate. So it is a trade-off. So, you know, I wish he would have said that. I think that he needs to be honest about exactly what's going on. But, you know, it's an 11-minute videos, and he seems to have a lot of issues with dentistry. So I'm like, okay, let's just maybe he edited that stuff out. So that's what we're assuming, right?
Okay, yeah, we'll assume the best.
That's we're assuming that again. You know, again, we're not here to make him feel bad. We're just saying that you got to tell the full story, Playboy. You got to tell the full story. So let's keep going.
Okay.
Detail-oriented work. And you're working in humans' mouths every single day. And you're working where every fraction of a millimeter matters. And you're still getting paid like it's $19.99. That takes a toll on you. The cost doesn't match the end product, plain and simple. Let me ask you a question. Would you take out $500,000 in loans to go into a profession where you got to experience an insane amount of mental, physical, and emotional stress? Probably not, right? Well, that's what most dentists do. So let's talk about the physical stress. For me, I was about 3 years into my career, and I was working about 5 days a week. I was putting in so much effort and energy to being the best dentist possible, and I was crushing it. But it really freaked me out one day because I wasn't necessarily taking care of my body on a regular basis because I was so busy with work. One morning, I woke up and I could not move my neck. And if I tried to lift my neck up, it would not move. And if I did, it was in excruciating pain. I had frozen neck. I took a bunch of Advil to hopefully calm it down. It barely worked. I couldn't rotate my neck. Turns out this came from the physical stress that dentistry was putting on me. So let's dive into the mental stress that happens in
again. I gotta pause. Yes. Yes. Okay. How do I say this? If you are okay, so when we're doing dentistry, right, we're basically in a small area, like he said, but posture matters.
Yes.
Right. If you're hunched over and your posture is horrible, of course you're going to have a stiff neck. It also depends on how many patients you're seeing. Are you taking breaks? Are you having lunch? You know, but a lot of this, it sounds like he was excited that he was making a lot of money, which is great because he had that money signed, gold, gold star or whatever. But then he was like, well, it took a lot of toll on my physical. So you have to give up one thing. I mean, or maybe get loops, get something that might help you keep your posture straight up.
Right.
Take that money that you were making and go get massages.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of things you can do, but you can't sit there and say that, the physical stress of dentistry got to you because there was something that you were doing. I've been practicing dentistry for, oh my God, I don't want to date myself here.
How old are you, Walter?
I'm 41.
How old are you? Okay.
I'm 41, so I've been doing dentistry.
Older than you?
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit.
Oh snap! I didn't realize I was older than you. Oh, I feel
You see, we're
old.
discovering something right now. Yeah, bro. No, so but like I've been doing dentistry for a while, and you know, have I ever had like a stiff neck? And absolutely, but that's because I was, like for example, if you had a day where you were just going, right, and you're going from one patient to another, and you're killing it. Gold star. That's my illustration, right? Yeah, of course you're gonna have stiff neck and stuff like that, but it shouldn't be something to the point where this guy couldn't move his neck. Then that means that posture wise, you're doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong because that means that everybody that's doing dentistry should have this issue. And I don't remember having too many of this stuff. There are days where it hurts, really does, because you're hunched over most of the time. But most of the time, I find that it's just the way I'm sitting, the way I'm, leaned over. That's caused my muscles and tendons to stiffen up in a certain position. What do you think?
Right. Well, let's break this down. Okay.
Please.
I'm gonna be a little mean spirited because I know he's venting,
Yeah.
right? And like Tolstoy said, suffering follows the gas laws, right? It expands and fills up the entirety of your brain. So it doesn't matter how small the suffering or how large, it's gonna take up all of your spirit. So I will give room for that. However, my boy, you're in your 20s. You said you'd only been working 3 years.
3 years.
You look like a relatively fit guy.
Right.
You haven't mentioned a wife. You haven't mentioned kids. So when you say you don't have time to take care of your body, bro, I've got a wife. I've got 3 kids.
Right.
And I work out every day.
Right.
I do my yoga a couple times a week. I periodically get massages. Like, unless you're literally working from sun up to sundown, which most dental offices don't, even if you put it in an 8 or 10-hour day, if you don't have kids, that's like another 6 hours in a day that you got free to yourself before you got to go to bed.
Well, maybe he was watching a few, catching up on the shows. Maybe he was catching up on Netflix. I don't know. I try to, I actually tried to look to figure out what could have happened. Right. But when you put it that way, it does sound ridiculous because it's like, bro, if you don't have kids, which we don't know, he has a ring on his finger. So he got married. I think in the video later on, he talks about, proposing to his, now I guess wife maybe. Right. Okay. But I will say at that time coming out and you're young in your 20s, there should be no reason why you don't take care of yourself. Right. Unless you're so stressed about dentistry, meaning that you go home and you're mentally exhausted and you just don't want to do anything but watch Netflix or whatever, and then just not do anything, move at all. But then that's just kind of putting it back towards you again and saying, what are you doing wrong? Like, you need to get up. And I mean, honestly, the best thing to do for me, I'll speak for myself, is after a hard day, all I want to do is maybe go to the gym and just get that frustration out. Right. Just get that frustration out, play with my kids, do anything but dentistry. And I love dentistry. We have a podcast about dentistry. Right. I love dentistry.
But let me ask you this. Does this put any of the previous comments into context, right? You're so stressed out that it's taken this toll on your body and your spirit and your mentals. Maybe you were struggling, and maybe that's why your boss said, hey, maybe you should focus on the basics, bro.
You see, it's like the more we see this video, the more you start to put the puzzle together and realize maybe, not every aspect of dentistry is for you. There's nothing wrong with that.
Or maybe not yet.
Yeah, you haven't found your niche. And I'm thinking at the end he will. I've watched this video and I believe he is actually going to find his niche, and he's doing programs and stuff now. So I think he's found his niche. But maybe the other stuff in dentistry was just not for you. Like, I'll speak for myself. I hated dentures. Right. No matter how much I did dentures and how good I thought I got, I always saw somebody that was way better, and it frustrated me and it stressed me out. Right. Hence the reason why I do surgeries. Hence the reason why I said I'm going to go back.
You found your niche.
And I said, I love surgery. Niche. Surgery, you can never, listen, you will find me doing surgery to some slow jams, playing some Marvin Gaye. Mm-hmm. That's when I found my happiness.
Yeah.
Maybe this guy is basically saying, hey, I did not find my happiness yet. And he does at the end, but maybe he didn't find his happiness. So all this ranting and raving is because maybe he wasn't good at the other stuff.
Right.
Which you brought up.
And he can't introspect and see that. So it's the owner's fault. It's the next owner's fault. It's the industry's fault. Right. Not that there aren't problems with all the above, but there doesn't seem to be any internal reflection so far.
Right. And I sent this video to other associates and stuff, and they were like, "Oh yeah, it is horrible with this," and I'm like, "Okay." So tell me why. And most of the time it is, like you said,
Right.
it's like, hey, let's not look at me. Let's look at all the other stuff, right?
Right.
How my assistants are, but I'm like, well, have you actually looked to see how you can improve your assistants? Have you looked to see how you can, there are certain factors that are out of your control. Like you can't fire an assistant if you're an associate, but you can go talk to the owner and say, hey, this is not working out. What do we need to do? And if the owner really values who you are and you're killing it, that's my animation. Right. You're killing it, right? Then right. then the owner will do whatever it takes to make sure you stay. Right. And so far, this gentleman out of 3 years has worked in 2 offices so far. I've counted 2 offices.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Right, about 2 offices, 2 or 3, but we'll say 2 just to help him out. But let's see, let's keep going. We're now going to, I think, his mental issues or mental health.
So not many people know this, but dentists have a million things going on in their heads at once whenever they're practicing. There was a time in my career, probably about 4 years in, where I had a lot of things going on. I was doing a lot of procedures, and I was the lead doc in an office.
The audio is a little low. Are we able to turn it up a little bit?
I was trying to build out systems to make everything simplified. It was really hard to do so because I didn't have any experience with building systems in a dental practice. So I was kind of doing everything on the fly. So I would be sitting down working on a patient, and in my head, I'm thinking about what lab cases did or didn't come in. I was thinking about the patient in the chair that I was working on. I was also thinking about the exams that I had to do in the 2 rooms of hygiene. And I was thinking about if I actually got paid for the work that I was doing. That is not the best way to practice, I know, but it is how so many dentists practice. And that is so taxing. Let's go into the emotional stress. So
okay, so he's stressed because I think he said that he was the lead doctor in an office. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping and guessing that he was the only doctor in that office. Right. And maybe the owner doctor was somewhere else, maybe had a second practice. Right. And so in that situation, he said he was thinking about his lab work. He was thinking about, did he get paid? He was thinking about the patient in the chair. He was thinking about all the other stuff that he had to do. To me, again, this goes back to management. Mm-hmm. Your assistant should be, hey, doc, this patient's coming in tomorrow and the lab work is here. Right. You as the lead doctor shouldn't be thinking about that. You should be telling them, the assistants, check to make sure, because they're the ones to receive the lab work, the lab stuff, right? Right. So they should be the one making sure that the schedule for tomorrow includes the lab work that you need for tomorrow. He should not be sitting there thinking about these things. Right. So I don't know what kind of office, but they made him do everything. It sounds like the only thing that was missing was for him to clean the bathrooms. Right. That was the only thing that I felt like he didn't do. He didn't clean the bathrooms.
I feel like he was getting to that. Like
maybe
he was getting to that. Maybe he got to it and then edited that out because he's like, all right, I'm being.
It's gonna make me look bad. Yeah. But yeah, in all honesty, you should have other people doing a lot of the stuff for you. You're right. Dentistry is tough when you're by yourself because you do have a lot on your mind. Hey, is this case gonna fit? Did that case come in? Hey, did that case come in? Let me ask my assistant, did that case come in? When you're new to dentistry, in all honesty, you're gonna be stressed because you're not used to that much volume when you come out as a new grad. When you're in dental school, you see what, 2, 3 patients, maybe 4 in a day
at most.
Then you go ahead and see 20, 30, depending on where you work. So you've just basically increased that volume 6x, 7, 8x. You're not going to be okay with that. You're going to be stressed. And I think that's what was happening to this gentleman, where he basically was just stressed because he's never done this much.
Right.
So he should have just said that. Been like, listen, it's stressful. I mean, I was very stressed. I remember coming out of residency and I did a whole extra year to get better at what I'm doing. And I was very stressed because I was going from one room to another, and you're not used to that. Yeah. And then on top of that, managing people. Dentistry is easy once you get used to it, right? Once you get used to the volume, dentistry is easy. You know what's hard? Managing people.
Oh my gosh.
That is the worst thing. I mean, if I could have if I could, and I hope somebody comes out with an AI that does this for me. Get rid of everybody.
Just robots. Just robots. Just hands coming out of the walls, just doing
Yes.
everything that you need. You know.
Yeah, get me a robot to assist me. I swear to God, I would be, man. Marvin Gaye be going 24/7. I'll be so
Right.
happy. I'll be
Right,
skipping
right.
out of work. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I get it from that point of view. As a new grad, it is difficult. It is really, really hard. So I actually do understand that mental stress.
Yeah, but you know, I feel like that's something it's a transition a lot of us go through until we figure out, like you said, like, all right, there's systems we can build for this, right?
Yes.
We track every case that goes out, and then, you know, we put the due date on, and, you know, 2 days before the due date, we check to make sure that that case is in because we know the patient is scheduled and so forth. How much are you getting paid for the day? Well, most offices should be producing day sheets at the end of the day. And you're
Yep.
looking at your day sheet, you're cross-referencing it with your schedule, making sure what's on your day sheet is what you did. So nothing's getting missed, nothing's getting overbilled or overcharged. There's a lot of systems I feel like would have helped this young man out.
Right.
And maybe he just didn't have the guidance at the time. But I feel like that's kind of a natural transition when you said you come out from seeing 2 patients a day and you're like, oh crap.
Right.
Like now I see this horde of patients coming
Right.
in. And I tell you, tell me if I'm lying. You're sitting there in the middle of a hard surgery that was maybe harder than you anticipated.
Right.
Someone comes and drops a little note on the counter, says, you have a post-op or a consultation.
Yep.
But you're in the surgery, you can't really leave yet. 15 minutes later, someone comes up, patient's still waiting, you know, or second note, you know, your next consultation. And you do feel your blood pressure going up like, oh my God, I do not need this right now. So I get it. But you have to be able to build your efficiency and build a schedule that works to your strengths and to your speed.
Right.
So I feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
But he should have been able to address that and fix that, especially if he's the lead doctor.
Exactly. Yeah. And the funny thing is, you know, when you make that assumption about, you know, them dropping, you know, little sticky notes and stuff like that, it gets to the point where I give them that look and they know, okay, don't come back in here until because clearly no one's having a good time in this room. And I can't say what I want to really say to you about your sticky notes. So I just give you that look like, okay, all right, you know what? Okay. He's not, I'm going to leave now. I'm going to leave now. So no, yeah, I honestly, I think it's just with time, he wouldn't have been as stressed. And I mean, is dentistry still stressful? Absolutely. But I honestly believe that most of the stress in dentistry does come from people, dealing with people. I really believe that.
A lot of dentists experience emotional stress because at the end of the day, we are caring for other people. And I felt really bad for a patient because they came in and they had issues with their 2 front teeth, but the roots on their teeth were very short. So these teeth could not be saved. And I had to tell this patient that they were going to lose their front teeth. And before I could even tell them that there were options to replace them, they were just bawling in the chair. And this sucked because I had to be the person to tell them that. And it wasn't their fault, but this was their reality. There's not enough coaching or tips out there that people can give to dentists to teach them how to actually deal with this emotional stress, but it's something that we all go through. So the stress in dentistry is all encompassing. You can't hide from it, and it comes with the profession. There are things that you can do to manage the stress, but it's on you and how much you value the solution to the problem. All right, so let's dive.
Yeah, I mean, anything. Because I get that a lot. I have patients. I'm the one that I always say, I'm the guy that everybody just sends their problems to and tells them, hey, tell them the bad news. You know darn well that tooth is moving in there. There's no bone around that tooth. Right. And you're going to have me tell the patient, oh, this tooth is going to be lost. Right. That's okay. You know, you kind of build a thick skin after a while.
You know, you do. I still from time to time, because, you know, we are empathetic people. Oh, yeah. And there's also a transfer of energy. So the scenario I thought of when he was saying that is, you got a patient who's got a high anxiety, but didn't want to do nitrous, didn't want to do IV sedation. They convinced you like, no, doc, I got this. I can sit through it. But the whole appointment, they're miserable. They're white knuckling the chair, tears streaming from their eyes, even if they're not laudably crying. You could just tell that they are suffering. And in your head, you're like, I knew this was going to happen. Why didn't I insist on sedation? But, you know, the patient couldn't afford it. Right. But you end up feeling that because there's a transfer of energy and it drains you.
Yep.
So I can absolutely understand that. You do grow a thicker skin as you do this more and more. And he's still very young in his career. So maybe he's too young to have had enough experiences to grow a thicker skin. but there is a transfer of energy, 100%.
Yeah. And I mean, I think in the end, he just has to understand that you are always going to be, people don't come to you if like everything's going perfect, right? You're a doctor. Like you don't go to a doctor just to high five them. You go when there's a problem, you go for checkups, right? But most of the time, you're going to be the one saying this happened and this is what we need to do. And unfortunately, you have to do that. And like you said, you can't just sit there and say, I'm going to feel bad for everybody that cries in your chair. If that was the case, I would never do dentistry.
Right.
I mean, multiple times I'll have patients crying and I'm like, I know it sucks, but you have to be the one to just walk them through that whole emotional aspect of it and say, okay, now let's get past this. Now, what can we do to help you? And with skills and knowledge, you'll be able to help that patient. So because the patient's probably thinking, this is it, I'm going to lose my front teeth and there's going to be, my whole world is going to change. And you have to bring them back to reality and say, okay, this is happening. Yes, it sucks, but let me do this and show you this so that we can get you back to a point. Because in dentistry, if we do our jobs right, no one will ever know we were there.
Right.
I tell that to everybody. If I do my job right, no one will ever know that I was even there. No one will ever know you have an implant. No one will ever know you had crowns or whatever. If we do our job right. And that's how he should look at it and say, if I do my job right, no one should know you're there. But to a patient, it's, oh my God, my front teeth is, I work, people see me smile and so forth. So they're thinking the worst case scenario. You got to bring them back and say, okay, I get it, but this is what's really going to happen.
You know, and the ugly truth is that we often don't talk about is the fact that a lot of patients, especially that we see by the time we're looking at the implant option, is they're patients that spent decades or more neglecting their oral health. And that's not a judgment call. You know, we all have different value systems, different resources and so forth. People are in car accidents or whatever. And there a lot of, especially in American culture, everyone's looking for an immediate fix. And often there isn't. Often there isn't a convenient fix. And there are times where people will going to have to, you know, lose, especially if it's front teeth, and have a transitional phase until we can get them into that more permanent aesthetic fix. And you know, they're distraught because they're in the now. In our minds, part of our thicker skin, especially when we recognize like, okay, well, I told you you needed to address this tooth 5 years ago, but you didn't listen to me. You only came here today because it's actually hurting and infected, but now it's too far gone.
Right.
And so, you know, you're right. I think if he would have worked long enough, he would have developed that kind of understanding so he doesn't transfer everyone's energy all the time. There's going to be times where it still happens to us.
Oh yeah, it sucks.
But we learn how to compartmentalize it and still focus on the positive and building a plan to bring that patient to the desired outcome that they're looking for and that we can help them with. You know?
I agree. Let's keep going.
Dive into the inflexible schedules. If you thought dentistry was a field where you could work a couple days, have weekends off to enjoy yourself, you're wrong. So the most amount of days that I worked as a dentist was 6. I took a job where the owner actually wanted me to work every single Saturday a month. I genuinely thought he was joking, but he was serious. I ultimately was super desperate for a job, so we agreed that I would work 2 Saturdays a month, which in itself is still wild to me. Like, I didn't go to school for all those years to work on the freaking weekends. That's not the point. The point was to be able to work and enjoy my time off. And Saturday is my favorite day of the week, but I did it anyways. Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to pause there. It just makes me laugh because I don't know anybody that hates Saturday. That really, when he when he said that, I was like, you know, now I think about it, I really do hate Saturdays. I don't want to do anything fun. I want to just keep working, and Saturdays is not my favorite day of the week. I mean,
interesting. Saturday is your favorite day? I would have never thought that.
This man he's a revolutionary. When Saturdays is when I heard that, I was like, all right, come on. Come on. And you know, another thing that kind of cracked me up, and I'll keep the video going, but it was the fact that he was like, oh, it's about me. I worked hard so that I could enjoy my time. Like, but remember, you said you want to take care of patients.
You want to be a doctor.
You want to be a doctor. And I don't know about you, but patients do have issues on Saturdays and Sundays. You know, so I'm sorry if Sundays is your Saturday is your favorite day, but patients may need you. I get phone calls every day 24/7 because patients, after I do surgery, they have my number, so they'll call me and I'm like, hey, you do realize that Saturday is my favorite day, right? You better not be calling me on Saturday. I don't
On
do
a
that.
Saturday, my boy?
How dare you? You
What are
call
you
me
doing?
tomorrow. You call me tomorrow on the Lord's Day.
Right.
Not my favorite day, you know. So yeah, when he said that, I had to laugh a little bit. I mean, I'm joking. I'm sure he's very serious about this, but
Right.
I hope it is also a joke because
He's serious about his Saturdays.
Yo,
Do not play with his Saturdays.
if anybody knows him, don't mess with him on Saturday. I swear to God, he'll come at you on Saturday.
Yeah. And then I worked for this guy and I took courses and I was, ready to start doing more procedures with him. But to take those courses, I had to take some of those Saturdays off. And I gave him a heads up about this. And he knew that I was doing this and he supported it because he said, the more treatment you can do, the better it is. And I said, great. Turns out when I was not working on some Saturdays because I was at this course, he had found a replacement. I didn't know that. But he texted me on my day off and said that I was no longer needed at the practice because he found somebody who would work every Saturday. And to that, I was shocked because I had been working for him for almost a year at that point. And yeah, he dropped me just like that. So when I ultimately moved to Texas, the norm is for people to work 4 days.
Okay, Texas. Is it 4 days a week?
No. The norm in Texas is not we didn't come to a magical land. I'm in Texas and I know a lot of people that still work on Saturdays, Playboy.
Yes.
So don't come to Texas. Don't. You move to Texas, you need to move right back out of Texas. I promise you will not find this magical land of 4 days.
Right.
Yes, when you get enough time and enough, things under your belt, you will get 4 days. I personally work 4 days. I have my Mondays off. But the funny thing is that it's really not even Monday off because I still have a lot of admin stuff I have to do, contacting labs, talking to the offices and so forth. So it's not, I actually work, sometimes I feel like I work harder on Mondays than I do when I'm doing surgery. At least when I'm doing surgery, people leave me alone. When I'm off and they know I'm off, they're like, hey, I have this problem or this patient has this problem or this and that, and I'm like, okay,
Well, let me ask you this. So this is probably like job number 4 or 5 for this very young
and
guy,
have you noticed it's almost every year he goes on to a different land.
That geographic success is working for him.
He's 100% successful with everything he does, man.
But to defend him a little bit, how much of a douchebag move is it to fire someone via text?
Come on,
man.
Come on.
I mean,
that's it.
To me, like I've been in a, obviously I was an employer for like 12 or 13 years. I was an employee for, a decade plus, before that. You got to respect people.
Yeah.
And at some level, especially at a high level professionalism, it's at least a phone call, at least.
Come in and let's talk.
And there's a conversation before that.
Yeah.
Unless because again, if you are a rock star, no one's really firing you.
No one's going to replace you. If you are nice, no one is going to replace you. If you're productive, no one's going to replace you. So for me, I'm like, if this man went to go take courses and he got replaced, we got to look and say, are you really that nice?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, again, I don't know. I'm listening to this man and I'm hearing I'm not good with a lot of stuff in dentistry and people just keep replacing me.
And I don't know why.
And I don't know what's going on.
I'm taking courses. What's the problem?
Again, we don't know what courses he's taking. He honestly could be taking courses that have nothing to do with crowns and stuff like that, and the basics of dentistry, restorations, fillings, and stuff like that. Maybe that's what he's doing, right? And so these other doctors are like, listen, I hired you to basically take the load off of me for the basics, and you're not doing that.
Right.
You don't want to do that. And if that's okay, that's fine. I think both people need to come in with an honest level of like, hey, I don't want to do basic stuff. And then the owners should say, okay, I don't want you to do the basic stuff. I want you to be a rock star doing, high-end ortho and all this other stuff.
Right.
That's what I think.
See, but I give the lecture at the NDA this last week, and one of my points in the implant course, because they were asking me when should I start doing this type of treatment. Mm-hmm. And my philosophy is when you've mastered one level, that's when you move on to the next. Mm. Don't do implants if you're still referring out non-wisdom teeth extractions.
Right.
You have to have sound surgical principles before you get to implants because you never know. No one patient's going to be the exact same.
Yeah.
So you have to have an understanding of soft tissue manipulation, how to strategically remove bone, how to, the mechanics of primary stability and angulations and all that. So get your surgery down first, then move on. Get your basic implants done first, then move on to immediates and build on your skill set.
Right.
And a lot of young dentists, like he may have been struggling with the basic dentistry, but doing, these Coyce and Spears courses on full mouth reconstructions. And the owner is like, my man, like half your fillings are coming back. You know what I mean? I'm not going to let you do, 15 crowns in a day. It's not going to happen.
Right. And he seems to, he was saying, he said it himself that he was desperate for a job. So he just accepted something. Right.
Right.
And I don't care who you are, but desperation, I mean, you can smell that on people. And so maybe that doctor was like, oh, he needs a job more than I really need associates. So I'm going to just say, hey, now my office is open every Saturday for you to do it. And when you decided you didn't want to do it, I'm going to replace you with this other desperate person that came in and says they will take every Saturday.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what he should have thought about and been like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely desperate. And so I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I don't know, man, I just feel like there's a lot of, he needs to look within himself.
And he chose it. Like you said, it's like with the insurance company.
Yeah.
You chose a job that they
That's
told you had to do 2 Saturdays a
That's
month.
it. Yeah.
And then you want to act like you're oppressed, making 6 figures. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I can keep going, but I'm gonna be nice.
There you go. Right. I mean, and again, remember, we're speaking to somebody who's making good money, people, right? I get it. Dental schools are expensive. I get it. You're signed up and you basically have a $500,000 loan. But I don't remember anybody, and I have yet to, I want you to look into the research to tell me, how are we forced to do dentistry?
Nope.
Does the government say, Walter, you're going to be a dentist?
Nope.
I don't believe so. And I remembered, and again, correct me, I'm old. I'm an old guy, right? So correct me. I'm just
apparently I'm older. So I don't know if I can give you any feedback on this one.
We're old people, and I live in Texas, the land of freedom, the land of 4-day work weeks. But I do remember in dental school, before I went into dental school, I had a piece of paper in front of me that broke down how much I was going to owe to the school after I was done.
Right.
And I believe, again, I don't think anybody put a gun to my head, but I believe I signed that paper knowing full well how much I was going to owe when I was done.
Right.
So when people go, oh, can you believe I gave up my 20s and now I owe this much and this much? Yes. And if you feel like you need to get paid more for your work, find that job that will pay you more. Or like you said, level up, that's my, again, analogy, right? Level up and take courses and do the things that will get you paid more. Right. But you have to be good at 2 things to me. And again, you can probably break it up into more, but you have to be good at talking to patients in order for them to believe in what you're saying to them. And then you have to be able to deliver.
Yeah.
If you do that, I promise you the money, resources, and all that stuff will come to the point where you can cut back and work 4 days, 3 days, whatever you want to work. Yeah. You can do that, but it takes time. And you cannot sit there and tell me you're going to keep doing the same exact thing and expect a different outcome.
No, listen, get your 10,000 hours in early when you're young and you got the energy.
You're young. You have no kids. Please do it.
And I'll be honest with you. Anyone that's in, this young man at this point of the story is like, what, 3-4 years out?
He's 4 years. He said 4 years. Yeah.
You're not a rock star yet. And I mean, I take that back. Every now and then, some percentage of dental students graduating just have amazing hands. And I remember a couple of my classmates that just had the most gifted artistic hands from the get-go.
Absolutely.
But from the majority of people, your first 5 years is where you're really finding your groove.
That's it.
And you really don't realize how, I'm not going to say bad, but how inefficient and how incapable you were.
Yes.
Until you're like 10 years out.
Yes.
And then you're looking back, or you're looking at the new grads or your associates as they're coming in, and you're like, dang, was I that slow?
Yes.
Was I taking 4 hours for a single root canal, or two appointments, full appointments for a single root canal?
Bro.
And you realize, like, yeah, there was a learning curve. And I wasn't always as great as I am now.
Bro, I'm going to even put myself out there. Okay. This is me saying this, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I am now seeing, because I moved to Houston 2014. I'm seeing cases from 2014. A patient will come back. Oh, I came looking for you. And, and this lady said this. And honestly, I'm not a very sensitive, emotional person. If no one knows this, right? My wife and kids will get that out of you, but that's it, right? But the one thing
Right.
that I would tell you is when a patient tells you, "Hey, I came looking for you because I really appreciated what you did," and I the second they said, "Oh, you need a new implant," I knew exactly who to go to. It made my heart. It warmed my heart.
Mm.
And then you look at other cases that you've done, and that I'm talking about. I looked at other cases. I'm like, God, that implant doesn't look right, or man, that was bad. And I'll even say, I'm like, oh man, yeah. And I'll tell them, I'm like, yeah, that implant was not great.
Right.
That doctor really took up for a lot of things that I could have done better.
Right.
Or you'll look at the access hole that where the crown goes on. You're like, ooh,
It's like
that was
over
not where
here.
right. You're like looking to the side, like, and you're thinking to yourself, that's not that. I could have done way better. I could have done
Right.
way better. And the body is very forgiving. It really is. The body is incredibly forgiving, and there are people, colleagues that will definitely bail you out. And I've had that happen with me and stuff. But that is a lot of introspective evaluation and saying, hey, I need to do better.
Right.
My man, you're 4 years out so far, right? As you said in your video. You need to really put that man in the mirror. You need to talk to that man in the mirror and say, what am I doing wrong? You
Right.
can't sit here and blame everything on everybody else and think that it's okay.
Right.
And I think that's where we're coming down to, right? There's a lot of stuff we agree with you on, my man, but there's a lot that we're like, ugh, nah, that's you, man.
No, yeah, that's definitely you.
That's you. That's you. We can't say anything but that's you. So
Right.
let's keep it going. Let's keep it
Okay.
going. I think oh, by the way, Texas is not that special. I'm sorry. Texas is not that special.
Wait, I was gonna move there for the 4-day work week. Is that not law?
It is not. Maybe it will be.
It says right here in Texas, the norm is for people to work 4 days a week. Is he
don't
lying
know.
to me?
He
Is
listen.
he
I'm
lying?
not gonna listen. Allegedly,
Allegedly.
allegedly, this is what's happening. But I have yet to know anybody that is by law saying that you only work 4 days. I don't know what this law is, and I'm gonna look it up and I'll get back to everybody. But I promise you it's not the norm, nor do I believe that anybody has ever told me it is a norm. So again, I don't know why he's right in that, but it's again the
it sounds good though.
The font looks nice.
It does.
The font looks nice.
days a week. That seemed a lot more aligned with what I expected out of dentistry. But in the Northeast, people working 6 days a week is like normalized. So yeah, I think working 6 days a week is absolutely crazy when you're a dentist. Do you know how much money dentists make when they go on vacation? $0. Yeah, dentists don't get any paid time off. I didn't know that before I became a dentist, but now that I do, it really shakes things up. The first time I found out about this was when I wanted to go on vacation to propose to my girlfriend. And so I was planning the trip out and I was thinking like, oh, it'll be great. Like I'll probably just use a couple days of PTO. And then when I requested the days off, the owner had told me that it was totally fine and that I could make the days up if I wanted to. And I was kind of confused because I was like, why would I want to make up days if I am getting PTO? And then he explained to me that there's no paid time off. If you're not working and you're not generating any money, you don't get any money. This blew my mind, but it's reality. So dentistry is a commission-based job through and through. That means you only get paid for what you sell and ultimately do. Yes, dentists have to sell their services. I made an entire video about it and I go into
can we pause this? Can we pause this? Okay, listen.
I was gonna wait until we got to the transition.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't wait. Listen, you got to know your audience, right? You got to know your audience. My man, when you say working 6 days a week is
in the
horrible,
Northeast.
It's horrible, especially for a dentist. Let's be honest, I don't wish 6 days a week on anybody.
At all.
I don't care. There's nothing special about dentistry where somehow we're immune or on a higher platform than anyone else, to where for us it's an atrocity to work. So I think everyone should have enough time to work, have time with their family, rest, and so forth. So that was the beginning of the elitist comment, right? Mm-hmm. It was very elitist. You got to know your audience, and I don't know exactly who his target audience is. The second one is when you talk about PTO. Let's be honest. If you're a general dentist and you're making, depending on where you're at, $800 to $1,000 a day, okay? Now, to us, because that's kind of been the norm since we've been in practice for a while, those type of numbers in general, right? Do you know, if you would have told me when I was in undergrad, hey man, I got this job, you're gonna be making about a rack a day, okay? You're gonna make a band a day, but I'm not gonna give you paid time off. So if you take a vacation, bro, that's on you. You think I'm gonna have a problem with that? You think any working class person is gonna feel bad for my brother right here who's clocking $1,000 a day because he took a week vacation and couldn't get paid for it? Come on, Walter.
And
Talk to me.
let's be
Talk
honest,
to
I
me.
bet you that vacation was very nice. It looked nice based
It
on his
looked
animation.
nice.
It's a beautiful. It had a great vacation. Listen, I remember growing up. Right, let me tell you this. My dad and mom. You know what? God love them. I'm telling you, but I'm telling we were not making what a dentist was making by any stretch.
Yes.
They were not, right?
Yes.
Combined, and I mean that combined, right? And I remember our vacation was we would drive down to, because we lived in Philly, Northeast. So all those dentists were working 6 days according to him. I don't remember that because we could never get a Saturday appointment, but okay. 6 days a week, sure, buddy. But anyway, I remember him. My family's vacation used to be, let's drive from Philly to the Jersey
Okay.
Shore, Atlantic Ocean area, right? So Atlantic City, which is about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic. So that was it.
Right.
That was it. And if you, like you said, if you would have told my parents, I will pay you $150,000 a year, but I will not pay you for time off, do you really think they're gonna have an issue with that?
Come on now.
And another thing that really kind of got me, I remember this. Like I remember at this point I got irritated and I had to stop. But what bothered me was when you were in dental school, Playboy. You see, now I'm actually getting it. Now I'm actually, because when you were in school, Playboy, do you remember when you had patients and you didn't do any work on them? Do you remember that work magically being done? I don't remember that.
Right.
I had to do it. So if I took a week, a day off, a week off, whatever, that work wasn't magically being done. It wasn't like your school said, hey, you get credit for something you didn't do.
Right.
So you already came in already knowing that you have to do work in order to get credit for the work. Yeah. This was in dental school. So if you came out and thought that this magical land of 4 days and just, doing nothing on people and getting paid for it was it, you're wrong.
Yeah,
and then here's another thing too. Let's just say that this does happen where you get paid to do nothing, all right, for a week because you're on vacation. It's beautiful. Where's that money coming from? If you can tell me where that money is coming from, I promise you right now, I will shut down my business and I'll go work for that person. I promise you right now.
Oh, okay.
I would. If you're hiring Dr. Horton,
let me stop you.
Let me know
before you put your foot in your mouth, because that does exist, and I tell you where.
Where?
In Washington, they passed a paid time off law, right?
Okay.
That certain types of employers, I can't remember what the limit on how many employees they had to have, but they have to provide sick leave and PTO.
Okay.
And then certain cities, like the city of Tacoma, passed an extra additive to that statewide law, basically saying that any profession, because all the other counties and cities, it exempted what they considered professional employees.
Okay.
Which, like doctors and dentists, fall into that professional category. But certain cities, like the city of Tacoma, passed it to where it include all employees. Okay. So the dental offices that my business partner owned in Tacoma, their doctors and their hygienists would accrue paid time off.
Okay.
So they took a week off, they would have to get paid whatever was $800 a day. And where did that come out of? Came out of the owner's pocket.
Oh.
Now,
okay, so he should go to Washington, not Texas.
To go to Washington. He needs to go to the Northwest. Right?
Because he might be working 5 days then.
Because the Northeast is
6
too
days.
Brutal.
Yes. Yes.
And you get PTO in parts of the Northwest.
And also, you know what? Now that you mention it, the VA also will pay you for accrued time off.
Right.
So you'll get paid time off at the VA also. So that's another thing too. So I apologize. I was wrong.
I was trying to catch you before you started.
No. I went off my.
Do.
No,
now you got to sell your office. You sell your practice, and you got to come to Washington, right? You already said it, bro. I tried to save you.
You know what? I will say though. I mean, in Texas, I do have 4 days off. No, I'm sorry. I work only 4 days, and up north, I might have to work 5. So I may have to edit this part out.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so anybody that knows how to edit, contact me and I will edit it out so that I didn't even say it at all. Right.
There you go.
But no, but I mean, in all honesty, we joke around. But again, that was incredibly elitist and narrow-minded, especially knowing how much dentists get paid.
Yeah.
And for you to be upset because you don't get paid time off to go on vacation,
right.
when there are people that work way harder than we do as dentists.
Thank you.
I mean, one of my best friends, I tell him this all the time, bro. He works way, way, way harder than I ever will.
Yeah.
I mean that, right? Maybe it's a mental, maybe I have mental anguish from working as a dentist. Physically, my best friend works way harder than I do. Right. I know so many people that work way harder than we do. So I have a hard time listening to a lot of this. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
And the way I grew up, I have a hard time listening to a lot of this.
Right.
So forgive me because I kind of went off there. I apologize. But I have a hard time, especially knowing how little we do and how much we get paid accordingly, right? I feel like, yes, even with the crappy insurances and everything, dentists make really good living. Enough for us to be grateful for what we have. Is there crappy parts of dentistry? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, yes, absolutely. I hate insurances. Yeah. I hate working with some people. I can't deal some patients I can't stand, right? There's so many different things that go on, but overall, it's not that bad.
And it's a privilege.
It's a privilege. Yeah. And on top of that, no one said you had to do this. Yeah. No one forced you to do this.
Right. You can still change.
You can leave.
You can leave.
I want you to. I want you to leave, so brother, you can be happy.
Because he's miserable.
You
so
are
far in this story, it's nothing but misery for this poor kid.
Bro, you are too young. You still have your full head of hair. You don't have kids.
Yeah, he's a good-looking kid. He looked like he was fit. You know, like
go do something else.
Go be a personal trainer or something.
Yes, go do something else, man. Like you don't have to do dentistry.
Yeah.
If you're this miserable,
right?
Care about you, bro. You are a dental brother,
right?
Anybody that's listening that's a dental brother or sister, we care about you. Leave if you're this miserable. I'm telling you, that the world is. I mean, you go sell stuff on Amazon. I hear that they're killing it. I see all these infomercials on Instagram that I can make thousands of dollars selling stuff on Amazon.
Okay.
I need to do that.
Listen. Put your feet on OnlyFans. If
oh,
that bad.
I'm done.
Put your feet on OnlyFans.
See, this is how you go left. This is how you go left. We're not doing that.
Well, listen, let's keep hope alive because there's still like a minute or two in this video. Okay. Maybe it gets better.
Okay, let's see.
He's building right now.
That's good. That's what we need to work. He needs to teach us how to do this better.
Yes.
Because this video got like I think 200,000 like views. So he's doing something right. Yeah, he's doing something. Maybe he needs to do YouTube.
Maybe.
Right? Be an influencer on YouTube and not do dentistry. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Be happy. You're a young guy, man. Like, dentistry doesn't have to be just you. You could just say, I'm done with dentistry. I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
I mean, that bill's going to suck. I mean, you still have your student loans you got to pay. You got to pay that back. But
can't write that off.
But maybe, influencing would do better. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's look.
To get good at it. Go check that out. These are just one of the many things that dentists struggle with when it comes to financial stress. And so one of the shocks to me was that I thought that if I sacrificed time in my 20s to work hard and get this career, that I would have a very fulfilling life after. I thought it was guaranteed. A lot of dentists do have fulfilling lives, but they have to do a lot of different things to get there. So when do you get to enjoy your life as a dentist? Well, it depends on you as a person. You have a choice. You can choose to enjoy your life now, or you can keep sacrificing and enjoy it later. Don't let anything stop you from doing what you believe is truly the right thing to do. I believe that you should enjoy your life now because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. And with that mindset, that's how I changed the trajectory of my career. You see, after I learned how to do a procedure that was able to give me more time, money, and fulfillment, I went on to teach that procedure to fellow colleagues and shared this information with them. And that has allowed me to have another source of income to supplement clinical dentistry. So today I work 2 days a week and I focus the rest of my time building content and supporting doctors in the program that I created. And I believe this is going to be a very viable career path going forward. I also think that part part-time dentistry is going to be normalized in the future, because to have to go through all the things that I just listed full-time, it's no wonder why so many dentists hate what they do and debate whether or not they want to take their life. Dentistry is not sustainable full-time, and there needs to be more changes and more people willing to step out of the way things were done, start being innovative about how things can be. If you enjoyed this video or found any value, please share this on your social media page or share it with someone who you think it may benefit. I'm grateful for you to take the time to watch this video. My YouTube channel right now has around 580 followers, and I'm hoping that changes because I plan on continuing to bring high value content to you. Thanks for watching. Please drill that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.
Okay, I just had to say it. The irony of him spending 11 minutes talking about how horrible dentistry is, and then the link to his next video being how to become a successful dentist. Let me teach you. Like, you literally just told everybody why not to become a dentist, and your next video is how to be a successful dentist, and you just said that what you just did was get out of dentistry.
Yeah.
Which I'll call BS,
Yeah.
right? Like I say, he's probably moving to influencing and making content, which God bless him, because he still didn't mention if you're selling some a procedure that
A course
said
or
that he teaches people to do in his program. You never once mentioned it in his video. So I'm starting to believe that this is the program. You're probably teaching people how to make content, and maybe we need to take the course so we can get some of those animations.
Oh yeah, man.
I go like
really,
this, right? Something pops up.
I need to figure out how to do that. But you know, I looked it up because I kind of went, you know, when he said that at the end, I said, oh, I wonder what he does. So I looked it up, and it's basically teaching. And again, I mean, I hope that he corrects me if I'm wrong, but it seems like he's basically teaching Invisalign, like aligner courses.
Oh.
That's it, from what I've seen. But I didn't really dive too deep into it, to be honest with you. I kind of watched this and I started sending it to people, and I was like, oh, look at this. And I'll be honest, a lot of the people I sent to, you know, some people said, yep, I 100% agree with him. And then other people were like, he just sounds like an entitled person. And I was like, oh, because they were like, well, I mean, we all know that this comes with dentistry. We all know that dentistry is not easy. We all know that, you know, it's hard. We all, you know, there's a lot of shadiness with people that are owners and so forth. But he was like, it seems like no one ever told him that this is life.
Right.
Not everybody is going to be, you know, good to you.
Right.
You have to make your own path. And I get it. You know, it's hard. And he might have been lied to. I remember when I started, when I went to dental school in 2005, man, I mean, I'm telling you, when they were like, oh, you guys are here, the golden age of dentistry, and it's going to be amazing. I graduated in 2009. What happened in 2009?
Right.
Right.
Everything
no
crashed.
No one was retiring. I'm looking around like, what happened to the glory days and all this money I'm supposed to be making, you know? So yes, I think if he was honest with himself, and he was honest in general, he might have been like, okay, I kind of came in this not really well prepared or not knowing what's going to happen.
Right.
And that's okay. But you can't sit here and blame everybody else for your lack of preparation.
Exactly. And
clearly,
what he did was he looked at the end product.
Yes.
He probably saw some successful dentists, saw their
on Instagram,
lifestyle, on
you know,
or
social media of some sort.
Right. Or let's say even in the neighborhood, in the community, at your church, at your community center, right?
Cool.
But all you see is the end product and the superficial visual that we all put on.
Right.
He didn't do a deep dive into what it takes. And I do sympathize or empathize a little bit with the notion of feeling like, wow, they didn't tell me it was going to be all this.
That's it.
I get it. I empathize with that. But that's 100%. Life. That's life on every single level. There's no golden tickets.
Yeah.
You know,
but that's what's happening with society now, man. Everybody basically says, look at me on social media living my best life, and if you're not living your best life, then you're messing up.
Right.
I remember, I forgot who said this, or somebody sent this. My brother, he always sends me stuff that he knows is going to piss me off. You know, that's all he does. He'll just send me stuff, and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with your generation? And I sound older than, you know what I mean?
Right.
But he sent me this thing. There was like this guy that was like, yeah, if you're not making at least 100,000 a year, you're worthless as a guy. You're
Oh,
worthless as a person. And I was
it
like,
was I know I saw that, but it was Grant Cardone.
was that what it was?
And
Oh
he said
man.
400,000. If you're not
Oh,
making
that was it.
400,000 a year,
400,000.
you should be embarrassed of
You're
yourself.
useless to yourself. That's
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute. I did the math real quick. I was like, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
I mean, no, no.
99.9% of the population that does not fit into that category.
You are the 1%er at 400,000.
Right.
The average income in the US is 50 to 60,000.
Right.
Average, meaning that we got people that make less and people that make more, but you're in the middle here, 50 to 60,000.
Right.
So someone saying that it's 400,000, and if you don't make that, then you're worthless and this and that. And that's what people are probably hearing and saying, why don't I have a Lamborghini? Why don't I have this? And why don't I have that?
Right.
So he might have shaped his world to think, wait a minute, I know dentists that are doing this, this, and this and killing it. But you don't realize that when you own a practice, it doesn't end because your day ended. You have other stuff you have to do. And if you're not willing to do that, playboy, like, you should not do dentistry. You should not own. It's not fun. There's nothing fun about owning and paying people and doing all this stuff. It's not fun. I don't care who you are.
He probably thought it was going to be like a TikTok video where he slides
Dances
into the office, does a little work, slides out, parties, and makes $1 million a year. But no, any profession, unless you come from a lot of, family wealth, generational wealth, you're grinding at least 10 years before you've really earned the right to work 4 days a week, to alleviate your schedule, to kind of adjust, and that's where I go back to the employer that hired him. That's it. I probably said, and I'm just conjecturing, all right, I've had this office for 10, 15 years. I don't want to do MOD, amalgams, and composites anymore. So I'm a hire an associate.
That's right.
I'm going to do the crowns, the bridges, stuff that I love to do. And I'm paying this person to do dentistry. Not the dentistry they want to do all the time, but they're getting a consistent check.
That's it. That's it.
So,
I mean, I think we've come to the conclusion that, one, I hope that he's happier.
Yes.
Because he was miserable this whole entire video.
Very. That was a rough 5 years. And he started with suicide talk.
Right.
That kind of worried me for a second.
That was to get everybody's attention.
That was the shock value. Yeah.
It got my attention. And then I started listening. And I was like, oh, okay. And then, I like you said, I don't think that there is enough. I mean, 7% is really high based on everything that I know.
Yeah.
7% is really, really high. I mean, I pray that that's not the case. I really do.
Right. Yeah.
7% is incredibly high.
Incredibly high.
I truly believe that if that was the case, the government would have gotten involved by now.
That's an epidemic level.
That's an epidemic
of anything is an epidemic.
It's an epidemic level.
Yeah.
Big time.
Forget COVID. You would have been there'd be suicide nets on every building.
No one would. They would. Yeah. It would be like, oh, there's a dental office. Let's put a net around it. Right. We would be in bubbles. So yes, I think the number was skewed. Yeah. I do believe that you got to do what makes you happy. Yeah. I really believe that. You got to do what makes you happy. If it's not dentistry, even if you went through it and you have a big bill at the end, and if it doesn't make you happy, you will not be happy later on.
Right.
Find what makes you happy. And if it is taking his course or doing whatever he's doing, which again, I still really don't really know. I think it is an aligner stuff, but if that's the case, that's the case. I have a good friend of mine who left dentistry, basically sold her practice, and now is a consultant for an aligner company because she liked aligners. And she's incredibly happy. And she even said, oh, I don't make as much as I used to, but I'm happy because I get time off. I get to do this. I get paid time off. She gets holidays again.
Yeah.
He's happy about that, but she's at the end here. She's happy with this. You see what I'm saying? So again, and no student loans, no debt, house paid off, everything. So she's like, look, what do I need to work hard for anymore?
Right.
So it can happen. So I'm hoping no one's looking at her and saying, oh, look what she has. No, but you don't realize how many years it took to get to that point, so. Right.
And I'd rather him and her be happy than wealthy and miserable.
That's it.
So if he's truly found that life, maybe we're being a little harsh on his message. This is just part of his creative license as a content creator, right?
Okay.
Ultimately, it's all about the clicks.
Yes, and it's working.
It's working. I want to make sure, like you wanted to make sure, that especially anyone that is interested in dentistry aren't going into it thinking that, A, 8% of us are committing suicide
Right.
every year, and that it's not manageable, nor that you won't be able to find the guidance and the help to kind of build the life and practice that, can find balance.
That's it. You just have, and I think it all comes down to systems. If you build enough systems and get the people that you work with to help you, it does take a lot off your shoulders. It really, really does. And don't trust anybody who talks bad about another person behind their back, because if they're talking bad about that person, they're talking bad about you.
Absolutely.
That office manager still irritates me. I'll be honest. I keep going back to that office manager. It really is, because I'm like, that is so shady on every level.
Yes.
And for you to even act like you're, holier than thou, that just really irritated me. But anyway,
You know what? I bet you some internet sleuths will be able to see who this doctor's name is and then backtrack all the cached pages of where he used to work.
well,
And we could track down that office manager and bring her on.
there you go.
That would be
There
an
you go.
awesome episode.
Well, I will tell you, if you go back and look, because I actually noticed this, if you go back and look, he puts himself in the video and on his figs, because he looked like he was wearing figs or something, high end. He had his full name on there.
Oh, really?
So if you freeze the frame,
Yeah.
it's his full name is on there. So
Okay.
he should maybe edit that out. I don't know. I don't have the energy to go look into all this stuff. I really don't care. But it was enough for my brother to send it to me and say, hey, what do you think about this?
No, that was a good send. I'm glad we got a chance to analyze that.
And I know for sure that my brother didn't care about the suicide part, because he probably, if he did, he would call me and be like, hey, are you okay?
Listen,
he was like,
Walt,
hey, look.
I still don't think he knows what you do.
Oh,
Based off the last episode, I don't think he knows what you do.
I can guarantee my brothers still don't. They all don't know it. I don't even think they care what I do anymore. I'll be honest with you. I don't think I don't even know if they know I have a job.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I call them on Mondays. They're like, don't you work? And I'm like, yes, I keep telling you my Mondays are off. And they're like, nah, you don't work.
4-day work week. Texas, baby. Texas.
It is Texas. I am. What's a Longhorn or whatever the symbol is. You know what I mean? That's Texas, bro. So I'm glad I moved here. I'm glad I'm working 4 days. And the funny thing, and I'm going to end here, but like, I remember when I came to Houston, I actually worked 6 days.
Okay.
But I chose to do that because I wanted to pay my student loans off faster.
Right.
So I was okay. That was a decision I made. And that was the decision. I was very happy. I didn't have kids at the time, and I just wanted to pay my student loans off fast.
Right.
So for me, working 6 days in Texas was okay.
Right.
I never came in thinking that I was going to be working 3 days and high-fiving everybody, and my favorite day, Saturday, was going to be mine. I knew that I wanted to work, and I still have my RAV4, which I still love. I still think it's a great car. People should look into that. I don't, I find these cars and all the less, it's like the less, buttons and stuff on a car, I feel like the longer they last.
Right.
Like I've noticed that the more I buy stuff and I'm like, man, this is a nice car. And then I realize, oh, I gotta take it in for this. This broke down. This isn't working. And I'm like, God damn. Like, I was happy with my 2006 RAV4. You know what I mean? Nothing ever broke.
Well, let's leave this message for especially the young people that are watching.
Please.
You work 6 days a week because you were able to find something that you love to do. And there's a big difference between working 6 days a week in doing something you love. You love surgery. You love the artistic value of it. You love what you can create, what you can help people with, versus 6 days a week in a coal mine, 6 days a week working, maybe 2 or 3 jobs because you're a single parent raising kids. So we do have to go back and emphasize the fact that as dentists, we've been able to earn the license to do something that pays good money. That hopefully for most of us, we love to do. And so when we say we work in 6 days a week, we should get, recognized. And I do recognize you, brother, for being a hard worker and taking care of your family. But you also did it in a way where you built a lifestyle where working 6 days a week is not terrorizing your soul and your spirit, because at the end of the day, it is something you love to do.
That's it. That's it. And I 100% agree. And I can't say any better than that. I really cannot say it any better than that. Again, just, I don't know, man, like dentistry is not that serious to me. I feel like in the end, like it could get way worse. I remember when COVID happened and a lot of my friends were, they were MDs. They worked, in emergency care. And I would talk to my friends and she would be away from her. I mean, I think her baby was like 1. I mean, think about that. Life is not that serious as a dentist. We weren't in danger of dying.
Right.
right? We didn't have, I mean, they shut us down. I remember they
Yeah.
shut us down for a while.
Yeah.
But guess what? There are a lot of physicians and stuff that had to go in still.
Mm-hmm.
So again, man, like
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we got to put everything in perspective, and this generation fails to realize that.
Yeah.
You know, and I can guarantee you the previous generation looks at us and thinks we fail to realize a lot of stuff, right? We fail to realize a lot of stuff. But in the end,
Right.
I do believe that if you're not happy with something, life is too short, man. Go do something else.
Absolutely. And I'm glad he did.
I hope so. He's working 2 days now.
Yeah.
So I need to find out what he's doing so I can work.
I'm gonna take his course.
I will.
We'll take his course.
All right, we'll talk later, man.
All right.